I'm Laquita Thomson, but I was born in Corinth, Mississippi. Well, I've always been a real visual person, and so I think that photography was a quick way to capture something and to keep it forever. I first started taking pictures when I was, I guess, in junior high. We'd go on field trips. I had a little Brownie camera, and I just saw it as a way to preserve memories mainly then. I wasn't necessarily seeing it as art, but I considered drawing and painting separate from photography when I was young. When I got to college, I took a photography class, and it was from a girl who had just finished at Rutgers, her MFA. So she was real, I guess you could say, conceptual. So that really put me on to what was possible to be expressive in a creative way with photography. I create in practically anything that moves as far as an art medium because I like experimenting. And I would say more those things have been affected by photography more than photography has been affected by them. Back at about 1999 or so, I was, my then husband he was going to travel and play tennis. And so I was going to go with him. So I was looking for something that would sort of document that, all those places we were going to go. I wanted it to be specific to a place, and I also wanted it to be part of an ongoing series. What I came up with was something that I called fabric landscape. At the time I came up with it, I was in California, and I was thinking about Cristo and the running fence and all of those things where he used fabric. And of course I couldn't do what he does, but I thought I could take small pieces of fabric and alter a landscape that might have a monument in it so people would know where it was. So of course I have fabric hanging off of pine trees over the Grand Canyon, and I have Niagara Falls, and everywhere. I mean, I would just carry these 5-yard pieces of net because I could just wad them up. If I flew somewhere, they could just be in the bottom of the suitcase. They didn't weigh anything. It worked out well because then I could just spread them. They would blow in the wind, and I have some of these. I'm like that's on a glacier in Alaska, and this is in Hawaii. And they would just blow and make a big brush stroke in the landscape. So that's the way I looked at it. I decided about 2005 that I would do all the states because I had Hawaii and I already had Alaska. And so I got all of these pieces, and then of course I had to edit them to decide which would represent each state. And about the same time I was traveling overseas too. This is in South Africa. So just traveling to different places, I decided to also do the fabric and landscape. So I've gotten all the continents except 2 now. And all of this time when I started it, digital was just coming in, but I began photographing with analog. So I took a digital camera and my analog Nikon, and I photographed with both. Well, they were so different because the digital was so in your face clear, and all of the analog always has this slight fuzziness to it. So I decided I had to finish it with the analog. When I was 12 years old, I sent a drawing, did it in ink, of a beauty queen to the Tennessee Magazine. That's the that's the magazine that the like Southwest Electrical puts out, but it's all over Tennessee. And I got published in that, and it was the only one published. So I felt like that was a big exhibition for me at 12. So. No, not as an artist, but particular projects, of course, because when you start one, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, it's still to be done. So, of course, you've had enough failures in your life with these that you know that anyone can be a failure or it can be a great success. So, you just don't know. but you have to work through it. So somewhere in every huge project, of course, somewhere in it, you're going to have self-doubts. Is this worth it? What am I doing here? Why am I spending this much money? Why am I spending this much time? You do have those self-doubts, but you learn that that's the point that you go forward. And it'll probably turn out different from what you had thought, but it will turn out. And so, once you have a few successes like that, then you don't doubt that it will turn out. It may not be what you thought, but it'll turn out. It takes you everywhere you go in your life. I do art wherever I am. And I've traveled a lot. I've been around the world a lot. And it's always there. It's always a part of me. Back when I was young and I would photograph any celebrity that I could find. President Kennedy, when that's a long time ago in the 60s, he came and did a speech at Muscle Shoals, Alabama. And my then boyfriend took me over there, and I sat on his shoulders, and he lifted me up above the crowd so I could photograph Kennedy. So I've been doing that kind of thing a long time, and so I've met, quite a few people that just sometimes I'd have to pretend I was part of the press and just kind of get in a line and get in or whatever. Did that with President Carter. I photographed Queen Elizabeth one time in Australia because I found out she was coming, and went out in the road where she was going to come in from the airport. So there were very few people, so I was right by the road and got a great photograph of her because of that. George Wallace, when I was going to photograph him, I was waiting outside a building for him, and his Secret Service guards, he always had guards, and they came and were going to remove me, and he intervened and let me photograph him. So it's, you just have to make the effort. And you have to do that when you're young, because you can get away with a lot of stuff when you're young that you can't when you're my age now. So you do it when you have the opportunity. Don't quit. You have to always work through, and it's just like I said about projects. You can't determine what they're going to be before you do them. You can determine how you want them to be, but they're always going to have a life of their own. But you cannot be discouraged by whatever they are turning into. You have to push forward, and you cannot quit. So many people get discouraged because they're doing self-realization before the fact. And a lot of times if you do something, it may not fly then as far as other people are concerned, but a lot of times it comes back. And people, when they want to see what you've done before, they may just latch on to it. And wow, when did you do this? And so forth. So don't quit. That's the main thing that I would say. It's what I say to the students here. You work through it, because it's not going to be easy. It's a life, and life, it presents its problems, and you just have to keep going.